All alien species got the same hard lesson from Deathworld Cadets. Story outline, 5-part series, Part 1. First contact at the Academy setting the Galactic Unified. Academy orbits the peaceful world of Velthera Prime, a station where the galaxy's brightest young minds gather to train as explorers, diplomats, and peacekeepers. The station has existed for 3 centuries without incident. Opening scene. The arrival deck buzzes with anticipation as representatives from 12 species await the controversial new arrivals. Humans from Earth, recently classified as a Class 9 death world. The classification alone has caused months of debate in the Galactic Council. Main characters introduced: Cadet Jiwon Kim, a calm, analytical female human with a background in Earth's mountain rescue operations. Cadet Hyun Park, a cheerful male human. Former wilderness survival instructor Cadet Nari Choi, sharp-witted female human. Grew up on coastal regions dealing with extreme weather. Commander Veltas, a crystalline Korathi. The Academy's stern but fair commandant Cadet Threx, an arrogant Crolian male. Species known for their strength: Professor Lintara, a wise Velocian instructor. One of the few who advocated for human admission. Key events: humans arrive in simple uniforms, carrying minimal gear, looking unimpressive compared to other species' elaborate equipment. Other cadets mock their small stature and lack of natural weapons. During orientation, humans casually mention Earth facts, gravity, temperature ranges, predator density, that horrify other species. First test, a basic endurance run in standard station gravity, 0.8 g. Humans complete it effortlessly while carrying extra equipment. Most other species struggle. Threx challenges Hyun to a strength contest and loses when the human uses leverage and technique. Closing scene. Instructors reviewing human physiological reports with growing concern about what they've allowed into the Academy. Themes established: underestimation and prejudice. Earth as an evolutionary crucible. Adaptability versus specialization. Part 2. The gravity of misunderstanding. Setting training shifts to the Academy's variable gravity chambers and hostile environment simulators. The curriculum is designed to challenge all species equally by rotating through different planetary conditions. Key events. Standard protocol. Each species performs best in conditions matching their homeworld. When gravity increases to 1.2 g, considered extreme for most species, humans function normally while others require mechanical assistance. Nari assists a struggling insectoid cadet named Sicha during a heavy gravity rescue drill, carrying both the victim and equipment. Other cadets begin noticing humans never use the recovery chambers, don't require special nutrition supplements, and seem unbothered by temperature fluctuations that distress others. Pressure test simulation. Humans remain calm and functional during a scenario involving oxygen deprivation. Using techniques learned from high-altitude Earth environments, Threx and several others accuse humans of cheating or using hidden enhancements. Medical examination proves humans are unaugmented. Their capabilities are baseline. Professor Lintara presents a lecture on evolutionary pressure, using Earth as a case study, continuous ice ages, megafauna, disease exposure, and environmental volatility. Jiwon calmly explains, Earth didn't make us strong. It made us stubborn. Character development. Jiwon emerges as a natural leader. Respected for her composure, Hyun's humor begins to bridge cultural gaps. Zicha becomes the first alien to genuinely befriend the humans. Curious rather than threatened, Threx's pride begins to crack, revealing deeper insecurity about his species' decline and galactic importance revelation. The instructors discover that human reaction times and problem-solving under stress far exceed predictions. Commander Velthas initiates a classified inquiry into whether humans pose a security risk. Part 3. The Pain Tolerance Protocol setting advanced. Combat training and survival scenarios designed to test mental fortitude under physical duress. The Academy has safety protocols, but they're set for species with normal pain tolerance. Opening crisis. During a routine training accident, a support beam collapses in a simulation chamber. Multiple cadets are trapped, including Threx and 2 fragile planari, gas-breathing species in environmental suits. Key events alarms sound for immediate evacuation. The structure is unstable. Nari and Hyun enter the collapse zone despite warnings. While other species' instincts scream, flee, humans assess and act. Hyun holds a multi-ton beam partially lifted while Nari extracts the trapped cadets. His arms are visibly shaking, muscles tearing. But he doesn't drop it. Once clear, Hyun collapses. His bones have stress fractures. Medical staff are horrified by the damage, but more horrified when he insists it's not that bad. Within 2 weeks, Hyun is back to training, shocking medical staff with human healing rates. The Plenary cadets become devoted allies. Their entire cultural context for courage redefined Threx privately thanks Nari. Beginning his character transformation, Academy Command reviews the incident. They discover humans have pain tolerance 40–60% higher than any known species, Ji-won explains. Pain is information. We listen, but we don't always obey. Philosophical debate professor Lintara hosts a seminar on the nature of courage. Are humans brave, or do they simply not understand when to quit? The discussion becomes heated. Ji-won argues that courage is universal. Survival just taught humans different thresholds. Subplot Sitcha researches Earth history and is disturbed by humanity's wars, natural disasters, and extinction events. She privately asks Nari, "How do you live with knowing your world has tried to kill you for millions of years?" Nari responds, "We tried to kill it back. We're still here. So is Earth." Mutual respect. Part 4. First Contact Protocol Setting. The cadets' final major examination before graduation. A deep space exploration mission to an uncharted system. Each team must establish first contact protocols with any discovered life, gather resources, and return safely. The mission teams of 6 mixed species, launched in small exploration vessels, Ji-won, Hyun, Nari, Threx, Shitcha, and a Velosian navigator named Keln form Team 7. They discover a lush moon orbiting a gas giant, teeming with life. Initial scans show high oxygen content, abundant water, diverse ecosystems, paradise conditions. The team lands to investigate, and immediately, things go wrong. The lesson begins. Paradise is a predator-rich environment. Every beautiful creature is venomous, territorial, or camouflaged. A plant's pollen incapacitates Keln within seconds. Humans are mildly affected. 6-legged pack hunters surround the camp at night. Their intelligent and coordinate attacks. Threx's combat training is useless against enemies that use guerrilla tactics. Ji-won organizes a defense using Earth strategies, noise, fire deception. Nari identifies edible plants using Earth-based botanical knowledge, saving them from starvation when supplies are damaged. Hyun tracks the predators back to their den and proposes a solution. We don't fight them. We speak their language. The resolution: humans recognize predator behavior patterns from Earth parallels. They establish dominance through non-lethal demonstrations, respecting the creature's territory while securing their own extraction zone. The team discovers ancient ruins indicating a fallen civilization, one that never learned to coexist with their world. Upon return, Team 7's debrief stuns Academy leadership. Humans turned a lethal scenario into an anthropological success. Other teams barely survived less dangerous environments. Character arc completion. Threx admits, "I thought strength was enough. You showed me strength is knowing when to fight and when to think." Commander Velthus privately tells Professor Lintara, "They don't just survive. They adapt the environment to them, or adapt themselves to it. I finally understand why Deathworlders are different." Part 5. Graduation and the hard lesson-setting Academy graduation ceremony, attended by dignitaries from across the Galactic Union. The human cadets are to be formally recognized as full Academy graduates, the first Deathworlders to achieve this status. Opening scene, the Dew. Ceremony hall glows with bioluminescent decorations. Representatives from 20 species gather. Earth's ambassador, Ambassador Soman Lee, sits with quiet pride. The commencement address. Commander Velthus takes the podium and delivers an unprecedented speech. For 3 centuries, we believed peace came from selecting the best from safe worlds. We thought survival of the fittest meant specialization, perfection in niche environments. Then came the humans. Key points of the address. Humans taught us that resilience is forged in chaos. Adaptability beats specialization in an unpredictable universe. Pain, fear, and hardship are not obstacles to be avoided but teachers to be heeded. Every species evolved to conquer their world. Humans evolved to survive theirs, and there is a profound difference. The Revelation Commander Vel'Thas reveals classified information. In the past year, Academy protocols have been entirely rewritten. The hard lesson isn't about human superiority, it's about complacency. We, the civilized galaxy, grew soft. We forgot that the universe is not kind. The humans didn't come to conquer the Academy. They came to remind us that survival requires vigilance, creativity, and the courage to endure. Individual recognitions: Cadet Jiwon Kim. Awarded the Commandant's Medal for Leadership Under Pressure. Cadet Hyun Park. Receives the Crystal Star for Valor and Self-Sacrifice. Cadet Nari Choi. Honored for innovative problem-solving in crisis scenarios. The final scene. Training at the Galactic Unified Academy followed a strict rotation system. Each week the environmental simulators changed to match different homeworld conditions. This way, every species faced challenges while others found comfort. It was meant to be fair. The instructors believed this created equality. They were wrong. The second week brought high-gravity training. The simulation chambers adjusted to 1.2 times Earth gravity. Warning lights flashed yellow throughout the station. Most species considered this extreme, even dangerous. Medical teams stood ready for injuries. Cadet Zicha felt the weight immediately. Her 6 legs trembled as she tried to walk. Each step required enormous effort. Around her, other cadets struggled similarly. The Velocians moved in slow motion, their graceful leaps impossible now. The Crolians, despite their strength, breathed heavily and sweated through their skin. Then Zicha saw Jiwon walk past, carrying an equipment container that weighed 30 kilograms. The human moved normally as if nothing had changed. She even stopped to help a Plenary cadet whose environmental suit had malfunctioned under the increased weight. How? Zicha asked weakly. How do you move like that? Jiwon set down the container and knelt beside the insectoid. This is less than Earth gravity. For us, this is actually easier than home. Would you like me to carry your equipment pack? But you're already carrying so much, I can manage more. Jiwon's voice was kind, not boastful. She added Zicha's pack to her load and continued walking. The high-gravity rescue drill began an hour later. The scenario was simple. Retrieve an injured cadet from a collapsed structure and bring them to the medical point. Teams of 3 would be tested. Speed and safety both mattered. Threx led his team confidently. He was strong and strength solved problems. But inside the simulator, gravity pressed down on him like an invisible hand. The injured cadet, a training dummy, felt impossibly heavy. His team struggled, moving slowly, arguing about the best path forward. The human team finished in half the expected time. Nari had carried both the dummy and extra medical supplies. Hyun cleared obstacles from the path. Jiwon coordinated their movements with calm efficiency. They completed the drill without elevated heart rates or stress markers. In the observation room, Commander Vel'Thas watched the recordings again and again. Professor Lintara stood beside him, her silver fur dimmed with worry. They're not using any technology we can detect, Vel'Thas said. His crystalline voice sounded troubled. No hidden strength enhancers. No gravity compensation devices. This is their baseline capability. Because their baseline had to be higher, Lintara replied. Earth's gravity is stronger than 90% of known habitable worlds. They evolved under that pressure, literally. The next test was atmospheric tolerance. The cadets entered chambers with varying oxygen levels. Too much oxygen caused toxicity. Too little caused suffocation. Most species had narrow ranges where they could function. The humans had already submitted their baseline data. The instructors thought there must be an error in the numbers. No species could tolerate such variation. They ran the test anyway. Hyun sat in a chamber with reduced oxygen, equivalent to Earth's high mountain regions. His oxygen saturation dropped to levels that would cause unconsciousness in other species. He simply breathed deeper and continued solving puzzles. When asked how he felt, he said, "A bit lightheaded, like being on a mountain. I grew up in high-altitude areas. My body knows how to handle this." Nari entered a high-oxygen chamber. The gas mixture would cause seizures in most species within minutes. She lasted 30 minutes and only stopped because the test protocol required it. That felt amazing, she told the shocked medical team. Like my brain was working faster. Very energizing. Temperature variation came next. The simulators cycled from freezing cold to dangerous heat. Species-specific suits protected the cadets, but everyone felt uncomfortable at the extremes. The humans removed their outer jackets when others added heating elements. They drank water when others required cooling packs. G1 explained that Earth's temperature varied wildly by location and season. Humans live everywhere on our world. Frozen tundras where it never gets warm. Deserts where it rarely cools down. Jungles with constant heat and humidity. We adapt or we build shelter. Usually both. Threx approached the humans during the rest period. His pride had taken many hits, but something else was growing inside him. Curiosity. I need to understand. My species is famous for strength. We evolved on a world with large predators. We had to be powerful to survive. But you're not specialized like us. You're not the strongest or the fastest or the most resistant to any single thing. Yet you outperform everyone here. Why? Jiwan considered the question carefully. Earth didn't let us specialize. Our world has too many different challenges. Extreme cold and extreme heat. Predators in the water, on the land, and in the air. Diseases that evolve as fast as we do. Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, droughts, floods. We couldn't develop one solution for everything. So we developed adaptability itself. You mean you're good at everything because you had to be? We're not good at everything, Nari corrected. We can't fly like some species. We don't have natural armor or weapons. Our senses are actually pretty limited compared to many aliens. But we can survive in more places than most species. We can push through conditions that would stop specialists. Hyun added, Earth made us stubborn. When things get hard, we don't have an off switch. We just keep going. That night, Sicha couldn't sleep. She accessed the station's database and searched for information about Earth. What she found disturbed her deeply. The geological records showed a planet of constant violence. Continental plates that crashed together, building mountains and triggering earthquakes, volcanic eruptions that darkened the sky for years, ice ages that covered half the world in glaciers, followed by warming periods that drowned coastlines. The biological records were worse. Earth had experienced 5 mass extinctions, events that killed most life on the planet. Yet life always came back, more diverse and more resilient than before. Humans emerged from the most recent survivors, creatures that endured the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs. Sicha found records of human history, wars that killed millions, diseases that swept across continents, natural disasters that destroyed entire cities. Through all of it, humans kept building, kept trying, kept surviving. They even kept records of their failures so future generations could learn. She discovered something else. Humans were afraid. Their literature was full of fear, anxiety about death and disaster. They weren't fearless warriors. They were terrified survivors who acted anyway. The next morning, Sicha found Nari in the dining hall. I researched your world last night. I need to ask you something personal. Go ahead, Nari said, eating what the humans called rice and vegetables. How do you live with knowing your world has tried to kill you for millions of years? How do you get up every morning knowing that disaster could come at any time? Nari put down her utensils and looked at the insectoid with soft eyes. We made peace with uncertainty. We can't control earthquakes or hurricanes. We can't stop viruses from evolving. But we can prepare. We can build better. We can help each other survive. The world tried to kill us, yes, but we tried to kill it back. We hunted its most dangerous predators. We reshaped its landscapes. We turned its deadliest diseases into weapons against themselves. We're still here. Earth is still here. I think we understand each other now. That's terrifying, Sicha whispered. Maybe, Nari agreed. Or maybe it's just reality. The universe isn't safe, Sicha. Your people found a safe world and built a comfortable life. That's wonderful. We found a deadly world and built survival into our genes. Both approaches work, but when everything is comfortable, you forget what struggle teaches. In the command center, Commander Velthas called an emergency meeting. Senior instructors gathered, concerned by what training had revealed. We need to discuss the humans, Velthas began. Every test shows the same pattern. They excel under pressure. They remain calm in crisis. Their physical capabilities far exceed our predictions. Some council members question whether they pose a security risk. Professor Lintara stood slowly, her old bones creaking. I understand the concern, but consider this. They could have refused to help other cadets. They could have dominated through strength. Instead, they share knowledge. They offer assistance. They teach techniques. Perhaps the real lesson is that Deathworlders understand cooperation because they needed it to survive. Earth was so dangerous that humans had to work together or die. Or, another instructor said quietly, they're so dangerous that even their own world couldn't kill them. The room fell silent, contemplating that unsettling thought. The final examination approached with the changing of seasons on Velthara Prime. All cadets would face their ultimate test, a deep space exploration mission to an uncharted system. Teams of 6 would travel in small vessels, tasked with discovering new resources, documenting any life forms, and returning safely within 30 days. The mission tested everything they had learned: navigation, survival, teamwork, scientific method, and most importantly, first contact protocols. If they discovered intelligent life, they must approach peacefully and establish communication without causing harm. Commander Velthus announced the team assignments in the main hall. Species were mixed deliberately, forcing different perspectives to work together. Team 7 consisted of Jiwan, Hyun, Nari, Threx, Sicha, and a Velocian navigator named Keln. They had trained together for months now. Trust had grown between them, built through shared challenges. Their assigned vessel was modest but well-equipped. Faster-than-light engines, comprehensive sensors, communication arrays, and enough supplies for 40 days if rationed carefully. The ship's name was Seeker, painted on its hull in 15 different languages. Remember, Commander Velthus told the assembled teams, this is not a competition. Return safely. Learn what you can. Follow the principles we have taught you. May the stars guide you home. Team 7 launched on a clear morning. Threx piloted the ship with steady confidence. Kel navigated using ancient Velocian star mapping techniques combined with modern sensors. The humans monitored environmental systems and prepared research equipment. 3 days into their journey, they detected something unusual: a moon orbiting a distant gas giant, showing biosignatures that suggested rich, complex life. The readings were extraordinary. High oxygen content, abundant water, diverse electromagnetic signatures indicating multiple ecosystems. It's beautiful, Sicha said, watching the green and blue moon grow larger on their screens. It looks like paradise, Keln agreed. Jiwan studied the readings more carefully, her face troubled. High oxygen means high metabolism. Diverse ecosystems mean intense competition. Nothing about this looks easy. You see danger in a garden world? Threx asked, amused. I see a world that supports life very well, Jiwan replied, which means it probably supports predators very well too. They landed near a clearing surrounded by massive trees. The forest was incredible. Plants in colors that didn't exist on most worlds. Flowers the size of ground vehicles, vines thick as cables. The air smelled sweet and fresh. Temperature was perfect. Initial scans showed no immediate threats. Establishing base camp, Threx announced. We'll spend 3 days documenting this region, then move to the coast if time permits. They set up their equipment efficiently. Chicha began collecting plant samples. Keln analyzed soil composition. Nari studied the canopy above, where things moved in the shadows. Hyun assembled their shelter while Jiwan established a security perimeter. Everything went wrong at sunset. Keln was the first to fall. The Velocian had been examining a beautiful flower with purple petals. The flower released pollen that sparkled in the fading light. Keln breathed it in and collapsed within seconds, convulsing. Medical emergency, Jiwan shouted, running to the fallen navigator. They got Keln into the shelter and administered antitoxin treatments. The Velocian survived but remained unconscious. Nari examined the flower carefully, noting its predatory adaptations. This entire ecosystem might be hostile to non-native life. The pollen affected us too, Hyun added, but much less severely. I feel dizzy but functional. Earth has toxic pollen, Nari explained to the others. Our immune systems evolved to handle airborne irritants. This is worse than anything on Earth, but the principle is similar. That night they heard sounds in the forest. Not random animal noises, but coordinated calls. Something was communicating out there in the darkness. Something was planning. We should return to the ship, Threx suggested. This world is too dangerous. We haven't completed the mission, Jiwan said, and Keln can't be moved safely yet. We need to establish a defensible position and wait for recovery. The attack came just before dawn. 6-legged creatures emerged from the trees, moving with frightening intelligence. They were pack hunters coordinating their approach, testing the camp's defenses. Each was the size of a large dog covered in armored plates with teeth designed for tearing. Threx wanted to fight. His Crolian strength and aggression demanded it. But G1 stopped him. "We don't fight unless necessary," she said calmly. "First we communicate." She grabbed a metal rod and began striking it against the shelter's hull, creating loud, rhythmic sounds. The creatures paused, confused by the noise. G1 changed the rhythm, made it more complex. The creatures tilted their heads, listening. Hyun understood immediately. He grabbed another rod and joined in, creating a call-and-response pattern. The creatures' posture changed. They stopped advancing. "They're intelligent," Nari said excitedly. "They're listening. They're learning." For 3 hours, the humans and the creatures exchanged sounds. Slowly, a primitive communication emerged. Not language exactly, but meaning. The creatures were defending territory. They saw the camp as an intrusion. But they were also curious about these strange visitors who made organized sounds. Jiwon slowly approached the nearest creature, her hands empty and visible. The creature watched her with eyes that showed calculation, not just instinct. She knelt down, making herself smaller, less threatening. Then she did something that made Threx's blood run cold. She turned her back on the predator. In human body language, this signaled trust. In Crolian understanding, this was suicide, but the creature didn't attack. Instead, it moved closer, sniffing at Jiwon's hair. After a long moment, it made a chirping sound and stepped back. "We're not prey," Jiwon explained softly. "And we're not competing for resources. We're something new. They don't have a response pattern for us yet." Over the next 2 days, an understanding developed. The creatures kept their distance but stopped treating the camp as hostile. Hyun tracked them back to their den and observed their social structure. They had complex family groups, shared responsibilities, even something like play behavior among the young. "They remind me of wolves," Hyun said. "Pack hunters, highly social, intelligent enough to learn and adapt. Earth had similar creatures for millions of years. We learned to coexist. Eventually, we domesticated some of them. You made predators into companions?" Threx asked, still struggling with this concept. "We respected what they were," Hyun explained. "Strong hunters, loyal to their pack, smart enough to recognize mutual benefit. Humans and wolves hunted together. We shared kills. Over thousands of years, we became partners. Different species, same goal, survival." On the 3rd day, while exploring further from camp, Nari discovered something extraordinary: ruins. Ancient structures half buried in the forest, covered in vines and moss. The architecture was sophisticated, suggesting an advanced civilization. They excavated carefully, documenting everything. What they found told a tragic story. This world had once hosted intelligent life. The ruins showed evidence of cities, technology, art. But everywhere they looked, they saw the same pattern: structures damaged by the local wildlife, defensive walls that failed, eventually abandonment. They couldn't coexist with their own world, Jiwon said quietly, examining carved reliefs that showed creatures attacking settlements. They built walls instead of understanding. They fought instead of adapting. The world won. Chicha studied the carvings with her compound eyes. "These predators we've been dealing with. The ruins show them too. They've been here the whole time. The previous inhabitants tried to eliminate them instead of living alongside them." "That's the difference," Nari said. "Humans learned early that Earth's predators couldn't be eliminated. They were too numerous, too adaptable. So we learned to live with danger. We developed awareness, caution, respect. We built with the environment, not just against it." When Keln finally recovered enough to travel, they prepared to leave. On their last night, the creature pack approached the camp. The leader, the one Jiwon had approached, carried something in its mouth, a piece of local fruit, undamaged and fresh. It dropped the fruit at Jiwon's feet and made a soft chirping sound. "It's a gift," Hyun said, his voice filled with wonder. "They understand we're leaving. They're saying goodbye." Jiwon picked up the fruit carefully and bowed her head toward the creature. "Thank you," she said, knowing it wouldn't understand the words but hoping the tone carried meaning. The journey back to the academy was quiet. Each team member processed what they had experienced. Threx finally broke the silence. "I understand now," he said. "What makes humans different? My species became strong to conquer our world. Your species became adaptable to survive yours. When I saw those predators, I thought of enemies to defeat. You saw complex life to understand. I was trained for war. You were trained for coexistence. Not just us, Jiwon corrected gently. Sitcha learned to read the ruins. Keln survived the toxin because of our team's quick response. You controlled your aggressive instincts and trusted our judgment. We succeeded as a team. When Team 7 reported to Commander Veltas, they provided comprehensive documentation of the moon's ecosystems, the predator species intelligence, and the ancient ruins. Advanced combat training began in the 3rd month. The academy didn't train soldiers, but all cadets needed to understand self-defense and crisis response. The simulators created realistic scenarios with actual physical challenges. Safety protocols existed, of course. The station's medical technology could heal most injuries quickly. The protocols were designed for normal species. The training session started well. 20 cadets moved through a simulated damaged spacecraft, rescuing trapped crew members and stabilizing dangerous equipment. The instructors watched from the observation deck, monitoring vital signs and stress levels. Everything ran according to the program. Then something went wrong. A support beam in Section 4 suddenly gave way. The simulators were meant to be unpredictable, creating unexpected challenges. But this was real structural failure, not program difficulty. The beam was actual metal, weighing several tons. It crashed down at an angle, trapping 3 cadets beneath it. Alarms screamed throughout the station. Emergency teams mobilized. The simulator automatically began evacuation procedures. A calm, automated voice announced, "Structural failure in Training Bay 7. All cadets evacuate immediately." "Repeat, evacuate immediately! Threx was closest to the exit." His training kicked in perfectly. Assess danger, preserve yourself, call for help. He ran toward safety, along with most other cadets. This was correct procedure. The professionals would handle it, but 2 figures moved against the flow. Nari and Hyun ran toward the collapse zone. Their movements were fast but controlled, avoiding falling debris. An instructor's voice boomed over the speakers. "Human cadets, you are ordered to evacuate. The structure is unstable." They didn't stop. Threx paused at the door, watching in disbelief. Through the dust and smoke, he saw them reach the fallen beam. Trapped underneath were 2 plenary cadets in their delicate environmental suits, and Threx's own roommate, a young Crolian named Vex Nari, dropped to her knees beside the beam, assessing the situation. Her hands moved quickly over the trapped aliens, checking for injuries. Hyun examined the beam itself, calculating angles and weight distribution. "Can you lift it?" Nari asked. "Not alone," Hyun replied, "and not for long. But if I can raise it enough..." He didn't finish the sentence. He simply got into position, braced his legs, and put his hands under the massive metal beam. His muscles tensed. His face twisted with effort. The beam moved, slowly, impossibly. It lifted a few centimeters. Nari worked fast. She pulled the first plenary free, moving the fragile creature with desperate care. The environmental suit had cracked. The plenary was breathing station air, which would kill them in minutes. She sealed the crack with emergency tape from her belt. The beam was still rising. Hyun's arms shook violently. A terrible sound came from his body, like something breaking inside him. "Hurry!" he gasped. Nari pulled the second plenary clear, then grabbed Vex's arms. The young Crolian was unconscious but breathing. She dragged him out just as Hyun's strength finally failed. The beam crashed down again. Hyun collapsed beside it, his arms hanging at wrong angles. He was breathing in short, sharp gasps, but he was smiling. "Got them out," he whispered. Threx found himself running back, ignoring the evacuation order. He reached the humans just as the emergency medical team arrived. They loaded all the injured onto anti-gravity stretchers and rushed them to the medical bay. The doctors worked on Hyun for 3 hours. Both arms had stress fractures in multiple locations. His shoulder joints had partially dislocated. Muscle tissue had torn in dozens of places. Internal bleeding required immediate treatment. The head physician, a Kwarathi named Selvar, emerged from surgery looking shaken. "He'll survive," Selvar told the waiting cadets. "But the damage is extensive. His arms may never function properly again. I don't understand how he remained conscious through that pain, let alone continued moving." "How long until he's healed?" Nari asked. "Healed? Completely? Perhaps 6 months with our technology. His species' healing rate is faster than most, but those injuries..." "He'll be walking around in 2 days," Nari said calmly. "That's impossible. He's human. You'll see." Selvar thought she was in shock, speaking nonsense. But 2 days later, Hyun walked out of medical bay on his own. His arms were still healing, held in regeneration sleeves, but he moved around and attended classes. The medical staff couldn't believe it. Your species' healing rate is extraordinary, Selvar admitted. The bone calcification speed alone defies our models. But more concerning is the pain tolerance. The damage should have caused neurogenic shock. You should have been unconscious from pain. How did you stay aware? Hyun shrugged carefully, mindful of his healing shoulders. Pain is just a signal. It tells you something is wrong. I heard the signal, but people were trapped, so I did what needed doing. But the suffering is temporary, Hyun interrupted gently. Death is permanent. Those cadets would have died if I waited for proper rescue equipment. The math was simple. What the medical staff didn't fully understand was how humans processed pain. Earth had taught harsh lessons about pain tolerance. A human who broke a leg far from help needed to keep moving to survive. A human caught in a fire needed to push through pain to escape. Evolution favored those who could function despite injury. Later, the two Plenary cadets found Nari in the library. They spoke through translation devices, their own language too complex for most species to hear. You saved us, the first one said. Our culture has no word for what you did. To face danger for strangers, to risk yourself for others. We have a word, Nari replied. Courage. But it's not special. Anyone could have done it. No, the second Plenary said firmly. No one else did, only you. Only the humans. Why? Nari thought about this. On Earth we have a story, an old saying. It says the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. When we see someone in danger, we have a choice. We can tell ourselves that professionals will handle it, that it's not our problem, that helping is too risky, or we can act. The choice is always there. But the pain, the first Plenary insisted. Your friend broke his body to save us. How could he choose that? Because he chose us over himself. That's all. The pain was real. The fear was real. But saving you mattered more. Word of the incident spread throughout the academy. Humans became the subject of intense debate. Some species viewed them as heroes. Others found them disturbing, unpredictable. How could you trust people who ignored their own survival instincts? Professor Lintara organized a seminar on the nature of courage. Cadets from all species attended, filling the lecture hall. Threk sat in front, his expression thoughtful. Let me pose a question, Lintara began. Are humans brave, or do they simply not understand when to quit? Is their courage a virtue, or is it a dangerous inability to recognize futility? A Velosian cadet spoke up. They seem to lack proper fear responses. That's not bravery. That's an evolutionary defect. Ji-won, sitting in the back, raised her hand. May I respond? Please, Lintara encouraged. Ji-won stood. We feel fear constantly. Earth taught us to be afraid of everything. Storms, predators, disease, other humans. Fear is our constant companion. But we learned something else too. We learned that fear is information, not a command. Fear tells us there is danger. Then we decide what to do with that information. Sometimes we run. Sometimes we fight. Sometimes we endure. The choice is ours. Another cadet asked. But why choose suffering? Why choose pain? Because sometimes the alternative is worse, Ji-won said simply. Hyun chose broken arms over dead friends. That's not complicated mathematics. 2 broken arms heal. Death doesn't reverse. Threk stood slowly. Everyone turned to look at the large Crolian. I ran, he said, his voice carrying shame. My training said to evacuate. My instinct said to preserve myself. I followed both. The humans ignored both. They saw people who needed help and nothing else mattered. I thought I understood courage. I thought courage was facing danger in battle. But this is different. This is choosing to suffer for others. I don't know if my species could ever learn this. Maybe you don't need to learn it the same way, Nari said kindly. Your world didn't require it. You evolved different strengths. That's okay. But don't mistake our choice for inability to feel fear or pain. We feel both deeply. We just don't let them make all our decisions. Chicha spoke from her seat, her voice small. I researched more Earth history. Humans have something called disaster response teams. Groups who run toward danger when everyone else runs away. You have firefighters who enter burning buildings, medics who treat wounded people under enemy fire, rescuers who dive into floods and climb into avalanches. This behavior is so common for you that you train for it and honor it. Yes, Ji-won confirmed, because Earth taught us that we survive together or die alone. Our ancient ancestors who helped the wounded, who shared food during famine, who worked together against predators. Those are the ones who lived long enough to have children. Cooperation and sacrifice became part of us. That night, Hyun finally returned to full activity. His arms were nearly healed, the regeneration technology working with his body's natural speed. He found Threx alone in the training hall. "I wanted to apologize," Threx said immediately. "I should have helped. I was a coward." Graduation day arrived with the soft light of Velthara Prime's twin suns. The ceremony hall had been transformed into something magnificent. Bioluminescent decorations from a dozen worlds glowed in patterns that represented unity and achievement. Representatives from 20 species filled the vast chamber, dressed in their finest traditional garments. In the preparation room, Jiwon adjusted her uniform one final time. The simple gray fabric now bore the Academy's symbols of completion, a circle of stars representing the galactic community. Beside her, Hyun and Nari performed the same careful preparations. "Nervous?" Hyun asked. "A little," Jiwon admitted. "We came here expecting to learn about the galaxy. I don't think we expected the galaxy to learn from us. We just did what felt right," Nari said. "Earth taught us certain things. We shared those lessons, that's all." Outside in the audience, Ambassador Soman Lee sat among the dignitaries. She was the official representative from Earth, a woman who had fought hard to convince the Galactic Council to admit humans to the Academy. Many had opposed her. Humans were Deathworlders, they said. Too dangerous, too unpredictable, too different. Now she waited to see if her faith had been justified. The ceremony began with traditional music, sounds that blended the aesthetic preferences of multiple species into something both strange and beautiful. Cadets filed in by teams, each group walking together regardless of species. Team 7 entered near the middle, Threx towering above the others, Sicha scuttling quickly on 6 legs, Keln moving with Velocian grace, and the 3 humans walking with quiet confidence. Commander Velthus took the stage. The crystalline Quarathi seemed to shimmer under the lights, his transparent body refracting colors across the audience. For a long moment he simply stood there looking at the assembled cadets. "For 300 years," he began, his voice carrying perfectly through the hall, "this academy has trained the finest minds in the galaxy. We selected candidates from peaceful worlds, species that had evolved beyond violence and struggle. We believed that peace came from those who knew nothing of hardship. We believed that the best future required the most civilized participants." He paused, letting the words settle. "We were wrong." A murmur ran through the crowd. Ambassador Lee leaned forward, her heart racing. "1 year ago, we admitted 3 humans to our academy. The decision was controversial. Earth is classified as a Class 9 death world, a planet so hostile that most species would consider it uninhabitable. The humans themselves are products of continuous evolutionary pressure, high gravity, extreme temperatures, aggressive predators, and geological chaos. Many of you believed they would fail. Some believed they would endanger others." Velthus gestured toward Team 7. "Instead, they taught us the most important lesson we have forgotten. They reminded us that survival requires more than intelligence and technology. It requires resilience, adaptability, and the courage to face uncertainty without flinching." He activated a display behind him. Images appeared. Yun lifting the collapsed beam, his body breaking under the weight. Jiwon establishing communication with alien predators through rhythm and patience. Nari carrying injured teammates through high-gravity conditions. The 3 humans working together, always supporting others, never seeking advantage for themselves. "These humans did not come to conquer our academy," Velthus continued. "They came to learn, and in learning they taught. They showed us that specialization creates weakness. Every species here evolved to master their specific environment. We became perfect for our worlds and fragile everywhere else. Humans evolved for chaos itself. They are not the strongest, fastest, or most intelligent, but they are the most adaptable." Threx stood straighter, remembering his own transformation. Beside him, Sicha vibrated with emotion, her compound eyes reflecting the lights. "They taught us about pain," Velthus said. "Not how to inflict it, but how to endure it. How to function despite suffering. How to choose temporary agony over permanent failure. We have medical technology that eliminates pain. Humans have something more valuable, the ability to acknowledge pain and act anyway." The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. "They taught us about fear. We built our civilization on the premise that fear should be eliminated. Safe worlds, protected spaces, controlled environments. Humans grew up with fear as a constant companion. Storms that could destroy homes. Predators that hunted in the dark. Diseases that killed millions. They learned to acknowledge fear, respect it, and then decide what to do despite it. Professor Lintara nodded from her seat, tears forming in her old eyes. Most importantly, Veltha said, his voice growing stronger, they taught us about cooperation. Earth was so dangerous that humans could not survive alone. They needed tribes, communities, civilizations built on mutual support. They learned to value strangers as potential allies. They learned to save those they didn't know because someday they might need saving themselves. He turned to face the cadets directly. This year, the Academy has rewritten every training protocol, not because humans are superior, but because they revealed our complacency. We had grown soft in our comfort. We had forgotten that the universe is not kind. Space is hostile. Unknown worlds hold dangers we cannot predict. First contact situations require more than protocols. They require the ability to adapt in real time to complete unknowns. The display changed, showing new Academy statistics. Applications from previously rejected species. Modified training programs that emphasized resilience over specialization. New partnerships with worlds that had been considered too harsh for recruitment. Because of 3 human cadets, Velthus declared, we are opening recruitment to 10 additional Deathworld species. Because of their example, we are changing how we prepare all cadets. Because they showed us our weakness, we can become stronger. He gestured to the graduates. Today we honor not just completion but transformation. These cadets entered as individuals from separate worlds. They leave as representatives of a unified academy that finally understands its mission, to prepare for the real galaxy, not the comfortable one we imagined. The individual recognitions began. Each graduating cadet received their certification and assignment. When Team 7's turn came, Velthus called them forward together. Cadet Ji-won Kim, he announced, for extraordinary leadership under pressure and innovative problem-solving in crisis scenarios. I present the Commandant's Medal, the highest honor this academy can bestow. Ji-won stepped forward, bowing as Velthus placed the medal around her neck. The audience erupted in applause. Ambassador Lee wiped tears from her face. Cadet Hyun Park, for selfless valor and demonstrated willingness to sacrifice personal safety for the protection of others, I present the Crystal Star, awarded to those who exemplify the highest ideals of service. Hyun accepted his medal with characteristic humility, smiling at the applauding crowd. Cadet Nari Choi, for innovative application of knowledge and exceptional performance in environmental adaptation challenges, I present the Scholar's Recognition, given to those who advance our understanding through practical application. Nari took her medal gracefully, nodding to her teammates. But there is one more recognition, Velthus said. Team 7 as a whole demonstrated something unprecedented. Perfect cooperation across species barriers, creative problem-solving under extreme conditions, and successful first contact with dangerous wildlife. Their mission report has been designated as required reading for all future cadets. They will be honored with the Unity Achievement, awarded to teams who exemplify the Academy's highest aspirations. The 6 team members stood together as Velthus presented them with a shared commendation. Threx placed one of his 4 hands on Ji-won's shoulder. Zicha touched Hyun's arm with a delicate leg. Keln smiled at Nari. Different species, different worlds, united by shared experience. The ceremony concluded with the traditional departure benediction. Each graduate received their assignment. Positions on exploration vessels, research stations, diplomatic outposts, or teaching roles at other academies throughout the galaxy. Ji-won would lead a first contact team assigned to frontier space, regions where unknown civilizations might still exist. Hyun accepted a training position at the academy itself, teaching survival tactics to future generations. Nari joined a deep space exploration vessel as chief science officer, charting star systems beyond known territory. As the audience dispersed and the graduates mingled with family and dignitaries, Ambassador Lee found the 3 human cadets in a quiet corner of the observation deck. They stood looking at the stars, just as they had on their first night at the academy. You did it, she said simply. You proved that humans belong here. We proved that Deathworlders have value, Ji-won corrected gently. Now others will have the same chance. Do you regret it? Ambassador Lee asked. Coming here, facing all that doubt and prejudice? Hyun laughed. Regret? This was easier than growing up on Earth. At least here, the predators only attacked during training exercises. Nari added, We learned as much as we taught. These species mastered peace and prosperity. They built a civilization that lasted centuries without major conflict. Earth never achieved that. We have much to learn from them, even as they learn from us.